I think Poole is more important.
Morning, guys.
Daniel.
Good morning. That was Fast Five, brought to you by Xfinity. Supercharge your home with supersonic Wi-Fi. Unbeatable internet, only from Xfinity. Good morning.
I think that the answer's Poole for this reason. Kuminga has his role. He'll do it well 2 out of 3 nights right now. Poole is stuck in the middle. This back and he's not the same player when he's the one who struggles when someone like, for instance, something like yesterday when Steph comes back and Jordan is now, I didn't even notice this till Dibs pointed it out about 10 minutes ago. Jordan Poole shot the ball one time inside the 3-point arc yesterday.
One time.
Yeah. One time.
Yeah, I'd like to see more mid-range.
Right, like that whole second half attack the basket thing that worked so well for them over the last week and a half. Did not quite sink in yesterday. It's probably why they ended up with fewer points than the other team. They fell a little bit too in love with the 3-point shot. I just feel this. Don't you guys feel this every time? Like Jordan was starting for a little bit, and then he goes back to the bench. He gets stuck searching for a few games. And that's what it felt like yesterday.
That's a nice way to put it. I think that he gets stuck sulking. And the way he plays when he comes off the bench is not the way he plays when he starts. When he starts, he is in absolute attack mode. He's driving to the hoop. He's trying to get his. He plays with a bounce and a joy and a love. When he comes off the bench, it feels like he's resigned to being put in the corner for some reason.
I don't think that's fair because I saw him celebrate a Curry
look at the
3
splits.
I know. Well, the splits are
Maybe
that's
sulking
the
is
data.
too strong.
Yeah,
but
that's. I don't know because like Curry hit a 3 and was like turning around and like JP's like dancing on the sidelines. I don't know. I always think that's
why
tough.
doesn't he play with the same aggressiveness when
Because
he comes
knows
off
he
the
doesn't
bench?
have the amount of runway. It's the same thing with Kuminga. I think Kuminga, when he knows guys aren't there, he plays different because he knows he doesn't have to look over his shoulder thinking I'm not going to get in. And there is a pecking order on the team. Like if JP's getting his shots, now he's thinking subconsciously, well, Curry ain't getting his. And it, I don't know. I just think that there's a dynamic there.
I think the two things are different to me because
Okay.
Kuminga is still in look over my shoulder mode because he's not yet a made man. Jordan Poole, he's going to be paid in full as of next year. He's been anointed by the team as being a real one. Jonathan Kuminga is still on the come up. He's not quite there yet. So to me, it's two different conversations. But to the question, I think it's Jordan Poole. You need Jordan
I do
Poole.
too.
You need Jordan Poole to be Jordan because when Wiggins comes back, he does all the things that Jonathan Kuminga can do, almost all of them. So Jonathan Kuminga becomes less important when Wiggins comes back.
And I also think Poole, when he comes in off the bench, because the splits, 24.5 when he starts in 41 games, 14.5 when he comes off the bench in the remaining games, and he's playing every single game this season. It's just the combinations he's playing with. One game he's coming off the bench, he's playing with Lamb and Jerome. And he's playing with Kuminga or Looney, and the spacing's not there for him. One game he's playing next to Clay and Steph, and all of a sudden, everything's open for him. He gets to play one-on-one basketball. But all the different combinations, you come off the bench, you don't have DiVincenzo, who started yesterday for the first time alongside the Splash Brothers, and you're going to get some of these struggles. That's one thing I think that's the most important thing over these last 17 games is to get Poole right, because he will be coming off the bench. Wiggins is coming back at some point, and Poole will be nailed to the bench. So how do you get the same production? I think it has to do with the combinations around him. Get better players around him, and maybe that'll happen in the playoffs when you shorten the rotations.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough right now looking at that. I mean, why? It's interesting. I think if you're Steve Kerr, you look at yesterday, I totally get why DiVincenzo starts. But if you're Jordan Poole, to your point, Dip, does this get in your head a little bit? DiVincenzo's played 37 minutes yesterday.
He's playing a lot of minutes.
37 minutes at Jordan Poole's position and in the starting lineup. And I don't know if there's no way for us to know what it is he wants this to look like. But with Wiggins out, if I'm Poole, are you turned off a little bit by the fact that you're not in the starting lineup?
Well,
or
Mark, I think it'd be insane for us to say that any athlete doesn't want to play.
Right.
I don't care what the sport is. Like start and play. Like almost everyone. Very few are Manu Ginobili. I know I'm better 2 minutes into the game checking in.
Right, but he also shot the ball more than DiVincenzo, which is to say that, okay, if we put you on the bench, when you come in, you're going to be the focal point of the offense. If we put you in with Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, that's not Jordan's game. He's not like we've talked about this all year, like the ability to play off the ball
and facilitate.
Like Klay and Steph do that so much better than Jordan does. So I get why the Warriors are doing what they're doing, but I just go back to that word for me. I don't think he's sulking. I just think he's searching.
Well,
and that's why I expected them to lose yesterday. I thought all week they were going to lose yesterday.
12:30 start,
Yeah,
LA,
they
Draymond
just-
Green's birthday. Probably having some fun. Slow starts, which they continue to get off the slow starts, which that's mind-boggling.
It's the 30-something in the first.
You got
every
the best.
time.
You got the best net starting five, right? Yet you're down double digits right away. That always happens. It
How
seems
can
like,
those
especially recently.
coexist?
Yeah, I know.
I've been asking that all
that's
year.
weird.
Like, how does that the best starting five net rating? Yet
Right.
you're giving up the most points in the first quarter. Well, at least at bottom, you're like the 28th or whatever.
Well,
in
go
terms
to
of-
Warriors Twitter, and I looked at your tweet, actually, and all the comments below, and I was just fascinated, which is why I retweeted over the top. Like, Warriors Twitter, Mark and I talked about this on
Is
the
insane.
thread. It's insane.
It's insane.
So you lose to the Lakers, and you're going to blame Steph for being rusty. You're going to blame Kerr for his rotations.
Anthony
You're going to
Lamb.
blame Poole. You're blaming Anthony Lamb. You're blaming a two-way guy.
Plus 17.
You're blaming the refs. You're blaming the schedule maker for a 12:30 game.
Iguodala.
You're blaming Draymond Green's mom for birthing
Right.
him on a day where you would eventually have a game 33 years later. Warriors Twitter is bananas.
That you know who did that? That's come on, who's the writer who used to do the 49ers blaming Joe Montana for having a baby during the regular
Dickey.
Glenn Dickey. GlennDickey.com.
Blamed Joe
Glenn
Montana for not planning
Right.
the pregnancy of his wife out properly. That was late 80s,
Yeah,
early
late
90s.
80s,
Yeah.
mid 80s, maybe.
God,
It's too bad that article wasn't there today, right? I mean,
Could you imagine?
You can find
right?
it. Yeah, you can find it.
Glenn
No, I
Dickey
mean,
had
if
one of
somebody
those-
wrote it today.
Exactly.
He
You
had
wanna
one of
talk
those
about getting
mustaches
canceled.
where he thought he was very special.
Glenn Dickey and Ira Miller.
Ira Miller.
Oh,
Pillars
my
at the
God.
Couple
Chronicle.
OGs,
Couple
no doubt.
OGs
He had
there.
the beard going
I saw
before
Ira
anyone.
Miller. He was at the press box about 4 or 5 years ago, right for, what was it, like Earth.com or something? I don't know. What
Was it with a feather pen?
No, he didn't have
Like,
a feather
and
pen.
a scroll?
Ryan Leong, him and Ryan Leong were chopping it up pretty tough. Ryan Leong, you know, he was all over that one. Shout out to Ryan Leong. DiVincenzo, real quick, I think he needs to come off the bench too. Playing next to Kuminga, just helping out Kuminga. He settles Kuminga down because DiVincenzo can play without the basketball, and Kuminga can go get his.
They need Andrew Wiggins back. Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Everybody needs all their guys. And look, the Lakers yesterday would be like, we're missing somebody rather
Right.
large also. I just think if we had said during the All-Star break, how y'all feeling if they go 5-2 out of the All-Star break? You'd be
Agreed.
thrilled.
How about
But everybody's
7-4?
because your two losses are against the
Well,
team that triggers everybody. That's
Are
all
people
it is.
triggered by this loss?
Yeah.
I mean, just
Absolutely.
Twitter.
100%.
Twitter's like 5 to 10%. Are people really triggered
I
by a
don't know.
loss
I
to the
don't
LA
know.
Lakers
I don't know.
yesterday?
What'd
I
you
am
guys-
because
they
of
went
the
7-4.
history of being a Golden
What'd you-
State Warriors fan. I would much rather have this happen to any other team in the association as opposed to the purple and gold. It triggers me,
I agree with
Bonte,
that.
because
Yeah.
being a kid, going to the Oakland Alameda County Coliseum Arena, all those games, and it'd be all Laker fans, and you'd lose 122 to 96, and all the Laker fans, all the Spadonis. And I know you weren't around Spadoni. You were not even a twinkle in Papa Spadone's eye. But it makes my stomach turn, Laker fans.
No, but okay, so that part I get. Believe me, I understand that. Because we've had this conversation, and once they went on the 5-game win streak, I'm like, all right, I bought in. And I'm going to stick with this, and I mean this sincerely. Did they, because we've talked about the road record last week, you were saying, hey, I'd like to see them win a couple games on the road, which it's an understandable point of view. I said to him, and I'm dead serious on this, if they can qualify for the playoffs and simultaneously lose out in all the road games from here to the end of the year, right? But somehow they still make it in the playoffs. I still think that they can beat somebody once or twice
Oh,
on
of
the
course they
road
can.
in a 7-game series. Like, does someone really need to see, and that's what I'm asking, does someone really need to see one win on the road to be like, that's it? They can do it.
No. It's not. It's not.
It sounds absurd, right?
It's not
They
that
would
they
be
can do
7
it.
and 34 on the road, by the way,
Yeah.
if they lost
and yet,
out.
I would still think they could win at least one of the 3 or 4 games on
And
the road
they
against
could,
an opponent.
They could, but there's something that's always fascinated me, and it showed up yesterday. Bench role players stink on the road.
Yes.
I don't know what it is in the NBA, and maybe that's part of what's going on with the Warriors is their bench has never been this young. When you're looking at Jonathan Kuminga and Jordan Poole, people who aren't even sniffing their 25th birthday, and they've got to run the bench. I mean, they were combined. What were they yesterday? I think they were 5 of 21.
They weren't
combined
good.
yesterday. They were really bad.
Jordan pulled 3 of 15 from 3 the
Well,
last 2
average
nights.
age
I
coming
mean-
off the bench was about 32 because Vet Min played, and he's
Wow.
39 years old.
Yes,
so,
and by the way, it was a plus 11. So
Yeah,
stir
legit.
that in your coffee.
Legit.
And realize
Anthony
how
Lamb
important
plus
he is.
17.
What are you doing with him? I mean, he's up.
Minus 26, Klay Thompson. What was it?
minus 27.
Minus 27,
Kevon
excuse
was
me.
minus 26.
Right.
You
Yeah.
ready?
What was Curry? Minus 22?
You ready to put Lamb on the team?
12.
Sure, why not? Steve Kerr said it yesterday. He connects a lot of lineups
Yep.
together. And like the vitriol Lamb gets, I think it's partly due to some of the off-court stuff that's going on with him. I do think so.
And he's done, right? He's played his 50.
He's done. They would have to sign him to the roster.
Sign him.
So we'll get that news today or tomorrow.
Maybe. They could milk it. They could milk it here.
They could let him sit out tomorrow.
And they have to wait at least 3 games because Quinones on the 10-day contract. You got to wait for that day to expire.
He's got the 15th.
If I gave you $10,000, okay, and I said you have to bet on him playing in half, none, or all of the playoff games, Iguodala, where are you putting the $10,000?
Half, none, or all? I would half, none, or all. I would go between none and half, but I guess it's not an option, so I'll say half.
Okay.
I would say half.
You think half? Okay.
And I think
do you hear where I'm going with this?
I take him at his word when he says that he was kind of resting up all year to play 10 or so games to get ready for the offs, and that's what it looks like they've done.
It is. Yesterday's game.
You think
I'll take all.
When was the last time he was healthy for a whole playoff season?
It's been a while.
But again,
2015?
How many minutes did he have yesterday?
14.
12. That's all you're asking.
14.
That's all you're asking from him.
But
that's all he's going to do.
That 14 minutes comes, and you take away Kuminga. And look, Kuminga was not
0
good yesterday.
0 points, 0 boards,
I know.
2 assists.
I know. It was
and a couple bricks.
Yeah, a couple bricks.
The 2 bricks are bad. The 2 bricks. He was wide open. Lakers like, go ahead and shoot. But you take away minutes from Kuminga. If he needs 10 games to get ramped up, then let's wait till 10 games. There's 17 games left, or 18 games left going into yesterday's action against the Lakers. Let me see Kuminga in that game. Let him play through the mistakes. You already know what you're getting from Iguodala. You know what you're going to get from him at this stage of his career. So, do you really need to see it for 14 minutes?
Well,
against the Lakers?
What was Kuminga, 2 of 10?
Yeah.
I mean, Kuminga is still in that spot. You just said it. Not a made man yet. So, you come in and you play like that, you're not going to get more minutes. He's choose your own adventure, man. You go 5 of 10, you're going to get more minutes. You go 2 of 10, you're going to sit down, and we're going to put Iguodala in because he is probably a smarter, more knowing basketball player as you try to win in the second half of a game. But anyway.
He's a mason is what he is. He's a bricklayer. Thank you. I hated that I had to spell that out.
Jerry Rice is down.
Exactly. Appreciate it.
I wish you wouldn't.
52 threes for the Warriors. So, and again, I said this before, this is a team that Charles Barkley was talking about. They were yesterday a jump shooting team, and it's tough to win that way.
Give Anthony Davis credit.
Yeah, he's a stud.
Yeah.
Anthony Davis punked him in the paint.
Can I bring something else up that I thought you guys talked about today, and it very much caught my attention because you literally, Joe, you used a phrase that as you guys started the conversation, I was like, that phrase is bouncing in my head, and then you used it, and you guys had a really, really good conversation about it. We have gone completely sideways with the phrase keeping it real. We have gone completely sideways. And listen, I'm going to admit right up front, I'm glad to have all 4 of us in here. We come from 4 different backgrounds. I am not the perfect person to have the conversation about Ja Morant. I'm a white man who grew up on a cul-de-sac, and I completely understand the privilege that comes with that, and I absolutely understand the difficulty. We love to flick this off, but the difficulty of being anointed as a thing when you're a kid, and then you come up with who knows what as your parental examples, and then you end up with hundreds of millions of dollars, and you just are 21 or 22 or 23 years old, and the weight of the world and an organization and teammates and family is all on your shoulders, and we act like that should be easy just because you have paper. And it's not. It's very, very difficult. But this idea, and you brought it up. I was having the show last night with Ephraim. He used the exact same phrase. He goes, keeping it real as a parent is telling your kid this is what's real in life, and therefore you need to be ready for these pitfalls, and you need to be prepared to make the correct decisions when you get there. Keeping it real does not or should not mean skewing to the negative, because that's what the streets want you to do. This whole thing, it became very clear suddenly why the Memphis Grizzlies can't win a playoff series that matters. They're a bus without a driver. He's their leader, and now you see why their coach complains about refs, and you see why Dylan Brooks acts the way he does. Yeah. He is their leader, and T. Morant is his leader, and none of them.
Well, that's the problem.
And none of them have leadership qualities.
But that's the problem. T. Morant's not the leader. T. Morant's riding alongside of him, pumping bottles.
But it was
sitting
his leader.
Courtside.
It was his
leader.
leader.
It was his leader,
dad.
but now he's not the leader.
Well,
He's not
I
the
thought
leader.
you guys played the Jalen Rose, and I'm glad you shared that over the weekend. Jalen talking about when you, as a young star, become the highest paid person, and you mentioned your family, Bonte, and I appreciated that share from your own personal standpoint, but Jalen is right. So now Ja Morant at 22 or 23 becomes the leader of the family, and unfortunately, the choices that he's making, and there's no parenting. His dad, you see him on the sideline, he's acting like he is his best friend. No, you're his father. You need to act like his father.
It's easy to say, but again, we don't know.
It is.
Because, like, okay, I'll share with my own father, he has not had a straight path. One of the best guys that I know in terms of coaching, volunteering, being there for us, but he had his own struggles for many, 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 many years, right? And, like, it's made our relationship very complicated. People are, well, your dad's in your life. Well, yeah, but there's also his own demons that he's been battling.
Right.
He has been sober for a decade or whatever, but it didn't mean that we didn't have these moments in time where he wasn't acting like my father, or we weren't having a relationship that would be your prototypical father-son dynamic. And I think that that's very similar to what I'm seeing with T. Morant. It's not a catch-all. He's horrible. No, he did some great things. Right now, I think the dad, whether it's codependency, whether it's his own mental stuff, whether it's his own enabler stuff, whether it's his own addiction, I don't know what it is. He's not acting like an adult, nor his father simultaneously.
Right.
And they're codependent with each other. Every time I see them on video, the dad's got a drink, he's got a drink. They're friends, not father-son duo. And you can be friends. You guys know you have kids.
Right. Sure.
You can be,
but
there also has to be a time where you step in and be like, no. We got to get this thing back on track.
It is complicated, though, by the fact that he's making 12.1 this year,
100%.
and he's set to make 185,
100%.
and so it's hard.
It's a gravy train.
It's hard as a dad to come in, even if he wanted to, and be like, son, you need to sit down and do X, Y, and Z, because Ja is thinking.
Well, then maybe it's the mom. Maybe it's the mom who says, hey, T, as your wife, you need to sit back with me and watch the games here in the living room and not be courtside or take your ass up to the suite.
Exactly.
Because your behavior is a direct reflection on our family, and it makes our family look like, oh boy, they let Ja do whatever the hell he wants to do. And it looks like he wasn't raised that way. From all the pictures and everything you hear about Ja, when he came out of Murray State, it was like, that's why we love Ja. Small school, playing hard for his community, and all this other stuff where you got the gun, you're playing pistols, and you're telling random tweeters, hey, these hollow tips are free, and then you got more stuff with the red laser. It's like, all right, enough's enough, dude. When you get in the pistol play, it's a different ball game.
I was in the commercial appeal checking stuff yesterday, and when you read a story, but then on the right bar, there's like, if you're interested in that, they'd be interested in this. The whole list was stuff that Ja's done. There's stuff I didn't even read. Like, he's accused of coming after a mall cop a few weeks ago in a mall. You got the laser thing. You got the 17-year-old kid. You got this on IG Live.
Just look at his Instagram.
Stephen A. was great about this. He's like, you can't, but I mean, what are you going to put? This is your Instagram.
Right.
You turned the camera on.
Right.
And did this. There's absolutely.
That's you.
There's nothing you can do to escape this. And if I were T. Morant, I would be embarrassed because look who Big Brother actually is. It's the league, it's your team, and it's your agent.
Sponsors,
who
too.
clearly stepped in. Right.
Sponsors as well.
Powerade is just about to launch a huge thing with, guess what, Ja? And who's in the commercial with him? Oh, T.
I know.
Great. So once again, there you are on next to him to go earn that money, but you're not there to give him any direction. And so all that matters now is what he does next. Because this was a great PR statement. They did it all right. Get him out of here.
Yeah.
Here's the statement. I'm sorry. I got to find new ways to relieve stress. Go away, disappear for a little bit. But what is he? I mean, he's got good people around him clearly who wrote this, and I'm sure he signed off on it. But what happens next? What happens next is going to mean everything for his and the Memphis Grizzlies' future.
Well, it's not just what you do next. It's what you do over the course of your life, constantly to maintain. You're going to have relapses. People have you see people with sobriety. Some go 30 years.
Right.
Some go 6 months. I had a brother-in-law that could never get fully right. So it's not about just what you do the next couple of weeks.
My point being is once you're challenged like this.
Gotcha.
Do you come out with some sort of negative reaction where, oh, you're just keeping me down, you don't understand what's going on here? or do you actually try to change? Because
Proactive as opposed to
Well,
victim.
you made the
fork
Alden
of the
Smith
road.
comp, which I
Yes.
think is perfect. Because
Yes.
Alden Smith
See-
had 3 or 4 different times where he could have taken the fork in the
But
road.
I'm
Exactly.
thinking Antonio Brown right now. Like, that's the fork. This guy was a great receiver for how many years, and we never thought a damn
Going
thing
straight to
about
Hall
it.
of Fame.
Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
And there's a fork in the road. Do you want to take this guidance and go, you know what, I do need to make a change? Or do you want to fight against this guidance and end up in a standoff?
It doesn't even have to be an athlete. Robert Downey Jr. was at the lowest of low just however many years ago since the Iron Man relaunch. I mean,
Right.
think about Robert Downey Jr. and where he's at now
don't
and where
even
he
bring it up.
was, right? One of the most marketable people on the planet. If you'd have said that 15 years ago, people were like, you're kidding me, right? This guy's the scumbag.
He also has a daughter, Ja Morant. So that should be first and foremost. So I want my daughter seeing this when she grows up, that her dad was acting like a fool in these videos. And look, we were all 23. Ain't no telling what I was doing at 23. And thank God camera phones weren't that big yet.
You weren't making $12 million
I wasn't
a
making
year
$12 million,
with a baby.
But probably doing some stupid stuff.
Boy,
Double
that was-
birds and
Sure.
videos,
Oh, yeah, we all
screens.
were.
You know what I'm saying? All that stuff. So he is young. And he does have a lot of money, and he doesn't have those veterans on the Memphis Grizzlies. Somebody that could just tell him, yo, Ja, chill, dude. Dylan Brooks isn't telling him that. JJJ's partying right next to him. You know what I'm saying? You got a young roster, so
It's tough.
having that big
a good
brother
point.
right
Yep.
there in the organization. Now, I don't know if Steven Adams connects with them because Steven Adams is from New Zealand.
Right.
They do things differently.
Right.
You know, so who's that veteran
That's a great
who can
point.
take Ja around the arm and say, Ja,
Well,
you
Well,
gotta
and
chill,
you
dude.
can take somebody under your wing, but if they don't want to be
Exactly.
under your
Right.
wing, then it's like even if Steven Adams pulled him aside and said, "Look, mate, you can't be doing this stuff." Okay, Steven, you're right.
We've all had that.
And then
that
you
person
turn
in our
around
life,
and you're
like,
going to
screw you.
Magic City and you're spending 80 grand over 3
80
days.
grand. He's legendary.
That's why it's got to be more than one person. This is the beauty of, like, you know, to now flash as this comparison that we always do. Look at the Warriors culture. Look at, and it's not just the Warriors. There are
Yeah.
cultures around the league where when you come in as a young player, you can't get away with stuff like this. It's not always easy,
No.
right? Sometimes
Yeah.
Draymond punches Jordan Poole. But, like, when you're young and you start coming up and there's a bag and you've got an attitude, it's like you've got to fit in this box. And I'm not saying, like, I don't like that phrase, actually, but you know what I mean? Like, in
Look
that
at Baker
culture.
Mayfield.
Professional.
Look at Baker Mayfield.
Yeah.
Baker
Look
Mayfield's
at
a great-
Johnny Manziel.
Johnny Manziel. These are examples of other guys that had the world. Baker, I know it's so hard to. He literally broke the rookie touchdown record and breathed life into a dormant Cleveland organization and took them to the playoffs and was awesome on top of the world. A couple of years later, how we feeling about Baker Mayfield after he had every commercial on the planet?
He's
How are
begging
you-
to be a backup
How
right
are you
now.
feeling about Baker
I'm
Mayfield?
out
Well,
on
we'll,
Baker.
we'll get into that.
49
I'm out on
I
rumors
think
everywhere.
about the words of Grandma Shasky, who said, "You are."
You like that?
You're. I loved it this morning.
She always used to say
you
that.
are an average of you and your 4 or 5 best
Best
friends.
friends.
Yeah, I'm
Yep,
trying to
yep.
paraphrase, but and I think about that in terms of Ja Morant because I don't know who he's surrounded by.
Exactly.
But you get the sense that, and you see his father not really parenting at the level that you would want him to in terms of how he behaves. But that ultimately, you can say Steven Adams, you can say Taylor Jenkins, his teammates. Off the court is where you need to decide who you want to be.
It's when we don't know we don't know what's going on with Ja, but like I know when the people I've dealt with addiction, you could literally drive them to the facility, drop them off, hug them, walk them right up
No
to the
doubt.
door, and then they could walk out that afternoon or not even open the door and want to go wherever they want. You have to meet that person who really wants to change has to meet halfway. We can have a
they've
whole
gotta wanna
intervention.
change.
Yeah, we can have this whole
Right,
intervention
right.
and we can have all the people that love you and everything. And at the end of the day, you could still say, go screw yourself. I'm going to do what I want to do.
Well, my mother went in and out of rehab for a long, long time. And I remember a few times, like, all right, she's back. How long is this going to last? And finally,
Exactly.
she was like, I had enough. And maybe it took her mom, my grandmother, passing away to be like, you know what? I need to get myself
Her rock
right.
bottom.
My grandma's leave. Her mom's leaving. My grandma's leaving. I need to get right. And for 23 years now, she's been clean this
Good
over.
for her.
But it took her, to
Yeah.
Shasky's point.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It takes you inside to say, you know what? I want to stop this. Chris Mullin reads these scriptures every day, morning, afternoon, and night, because we all forget that Chris Mullin, as great of a guy he is,
Absolutely.
he battled addiction, which is why he keeps the buzz cut. He's like, I keep this because it represents my change in life. And so I read these because you never know at any moment you could want to do something. You're sitting there and you're like, you know what? Let me read this to get myself back on track. My mom still battles every single day, but she's done a great job of steering
Yeah.
clear. But when she comes to the city, she's like, I want to get out of here. My dad won't even come into the city because of all the addictions.
Probably
but
reminds
it's
them
all
of the days of when they were running around doing what they were doing.
Exactly.
My
So it's
brother
going to be on
Mike,
a person.
who's a counselor, says it takes 7 times on average to get sober or to beat
That's
an
the
addiction.
average.
The average is 7
jeez.
That doesn't
7
surprise me.
bouts.
Well, a lot of
I
them
actually
never
thought
get
it might
there at
be
all.
higher.
Yeah.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
Well, see, that, to me, to circle it back, that's keeping it real.
Yeah.
That's what I mean about what happens next. What Ja's been doing is not keeping it real.
No, it's-
what he needs to do next is keep it real.
Which is the hardest thing he'll have to do up to this point in his
Especially
life.
at 23, where you feel like you're Superman.
Yes.
I mean, he's on top of the world.
Yes.
You're a basketball player. You're not about that life.
Right.
You're not about that life and playing pistols and showing off. Like, Ja, are you going to use that gun? You're a point guard, one of the best point guards in this league and an MVP candidate. Like, at some point, we all, Jask and I love our
But
hip-hop.
Bonte, he
We love
is
our
about
rap. We
that,
love
like-
Cash Money Millionaires. But at some point, I was like, what am I doing with a soldier rag on or a white tee? I'm not that guy.
No, I know.
I'm
but
a cornball.
It's funny that you say, like, I'm not that guy. But, like,
Seriously.
But who cares how he was raised? How he's acting right now
Right.
is he's trying to be that guy.
No,
and I
he
think
is.
that's the
And it's
bigger
the problem.
problem.
But that's and I heard you guys earlier also talk about his crew, and we do this a lot with athletes, celebrities, whoever. When you get this kind of an opportunity, and we can talk about Spider-Man, with great power comes great responsibility.
Yeah.
That phrase, but like this point was made to me. Take a look at, for instance, LeBron James. LeBron James came up with a crew, and LeBron James came up with a ton of attention, more than Ja. And the weight of the whole league on his shoulders before his 20th birthday. What did he do with his crew? He brought them all with him and made them millionaires too.
The tie-
and
The
now
circle.
now they're running businesses
I know.
instead of running clubs.
No, it's a good point.
That's keeping it real.
Well, the boat in the harbor was lifted by the entire tide. You know, all the boats in
Exactly.
the harbor. One last
Ja
statement. This is
has
my-
that opportunity with his crew.
I love that. This is a statement from my buddy Ryan, who's changed his life. I'm so proud of him. I love him dearly. He says, not everyone is ready to stop digging a new bottom. Meaning you think you're at rock bottom,
Yeah, man.
but you're still digging and going lower, and there's always another low for some people. It just sucks.
Yep. Well, I mean, and this is true for everybody, right? Like it's the hardest thing to see is the stuff that's right in front of your face.
Always.
And yourself.
Always.
You're the hardest thing for you to see, right? And I mean, so
It's called denial for a reason.
right. I mean, like, you know, nobody sees that perspective that the rest of the world sometimes sees in you. And so that's what I mean about what happens next. I'm really curious. It's great. Somebody sat down with him. They put out a really nice statement. They're doing the right thing. But does he, in his heart of hearts, really believe something's wrong here? Or does he just think, like, I'm going to take a couple weeks, let this die down.
Going through the motions.
And then we're going to
I-
go back to normal.
I think this is it. I believe in Ja that he's going to figure this out.
I hope.
Say, you know what?
I hope.
This ain't it.
First time
This
I've been
isn't
rooting
it.
for the Grizzlies in years.
How much he loves money. He loves so much money. Ja, you're going to cost yourself a lot of money if you continue down this path.
Oh, he already has.
That thing's
he
not
already
signed
has.
yet, right? That thing's not.
No,
I mean,
not signed.
193, 5 years, 193.
Well, plus
that's what's on tap.
The Nike, the NBA 2K, the Sprite commercials, the
Powerade.
State Farm commercials.
signed it.
Look at Chris Paul. You could have everything Chris Paul's had off the court.
And people don't even like him.
That's what I'm saying. Like, think of the amount, and Curry's come for a lot of Chris Paul stuff.
Right.
The amount of money, forget the contract, off the court. You are a breadwinner for life now.
Well, maybe we'll see Ja Thursday.
I pray
maybe
for
not. Maybe not.
I
when the Warriors
bet.
are
I
down
bet
in
not.
Memphis. I don't think. I think it's going to be gone for a
That
while.
would be quick.
By the
That
way,
would be quick.
I went to sleep thinking that the Grizzlies won last night. I was like, oh, they're up
That was
15.
hilarious.
I went to sleep, and somebody was like, yo, Bonte, the Clippers won. I was like, wait, what?
Yep.
They won that
I heard
game?
you earlier. Yeah, Clippers still haven't won with
Dude,
Westbrook.
Dude, they
Yeah.
gave up 51 in the third quarter. I was like, yeah, this game's done.
And me paying attention. Oh, yeah, Bonte.
Westbrook
That's the
won a
real
game.
problem with the NBA.
The long national nightmare is over.
Oh, man, they finally get a win. All right.